After we announced my pregnancy, my sister-in-law's plan to humiliate me at my husband's party backfired, landing her in jail and a divorce. For the last 7 years, I, 29F, have been wed to Harry. Except for his relationship to his sister, Kayla, who brings all the negative into our life, I enjoy everything about our marriage. Now don't get me wrong, when I initially met Kayla, I loved her. But with time, I rapidly changed my view. She is poisonous, manipulative, and really negative. Knowing the kind of person she is, I have worked hard over years to be on her good side. My husband dated SIL's best friend when he was 17 in the past, but they subsequently broke up since he felt under pressure to be with her because of SIL. His sister said he and another friend of hers should be together when he turned 23 and discovered he was single, but he disagreed. She went crying to their parents about how she wanted him to wed someone she felt comfortable with, but his parents hardly really listened to her throughout their great battle. While my husband and I were meeting and falling in love, his parents were quite encouraging, but SIL always treated me coldly. She would always bring up Harry's exes for no apparent reason whenever I was present, reminding him of how well they were doing and suggesting how he could get in touch with them. This continued for some time. Harry also thought this strange and would ask her to stop bringing up his exes. I was not the only one who saw this. Then SIL would get enraged and start mocking me, claiming I was jealous and Harry shouldn't be with someone like me. SIL would deliberately invite one of Harry's exes whenever his parents would call us for supper, saying she had inadvertently come across them that day and had to ask them politely. She doesn't follow me, but she checks my Instagram constantly as well. Since I have a public account, I observed she is usually the first person to see my stories. Should a man comment on my photograph, she would then go to her brother and grumble over how I was sharing indecent images of myself. Harry and I would actually chuckle at her claims. She persuaded Harry to split off with me when he and I agreed to live together, telling him I had many defects as a woman and that she could find someone far better than him. Since I had been just friendly to her all along, this comment really wounded me. Sadly, SIL's treatment of me got even more bad as soon as Harry and I were engaged. Everyone started applauding Harry and me as we revealed our engagement, but I observed Kayla was somewhat quiet. Then, startled everyone, she sprang up from her chair and left our gathering. Later, she called Harry, sobbing and yelling about how she didn't value receiving the news with everyone else as she felt she was the closest to him and deserved to be the first one to know of his engagement. Later on, she messaged me nearly borderline threateningly, advising me on how I should treat her brother as she had always been the only female in his life. I nearly shuddered over the strange message. I left her message on scene, which I know must have offended her even more, not even bothered responding. Every time SIL saw me, she started to progressively ignore me. She stayed involved in all the wedding preparations for whatever reason, like when I went dress shopping and had my bridal shower. Though both my future mother-in-law and fiancé called her out on it several times, her criticism of the wedding reached a whole new level as she freely expressed her unhappiness with my decisions. Her actions persisted. One day, Kayla overheard me talking about the centerpiece with my future mother-in-law. She started to make fun of me right away, stating how my decision had no class and how this was why she wanted her brother to wed someone better. For me, that was the tipping point and I lost control. I made it plain to her that she was no longer invited to our wedding and yelled at her that I could not stand her continual taunting and criticism anymore. Shocked and gasping in surprise as if she had never expected me to challenge her, Kayla was infuriated even by my mother-in-law, who backed me. Later on, Kayla contacted Harry, moaning about how I embarrassed her and insisting he should control me since I would be his wife. Harry insisted strongly that he supported my choice and that she would not be invited to the wedding should she not atone. She grudgingly texted me a sincere apology. I saw it and, once more, left on read. I was already tired from getting ready for my wedding, and I wanted nothing to do with her drama. She did visit our wedding in the end since I wanted her to not criticize us afterward. Everyone, including the guests, seemed to have no issue following the pink tones and pastels chosen for my wedding. But SIL arrived looking as though she were attending a funeral, a black floor-length gown with a veil. To put it mildly, we were stunned. SIL visited everyone sharing her grief at losing her brother to another woman. My husband approached SIL about her discomfort with her wedding attire at the reception. Saying that she had the right to wear whatever she chose and that I was too domineering, she sought to portray the victim. When her non-stop scene-making persisted, my mother-in-law and father-in-law ultimately ordered her to leave. It was embarrassing for me. Ever since that day I avoid her. I forbade SIL anywhere near our kid when I delivered my son Nate. She tried to oppose it but my husband's parents had my back. They supported my choice and knew exactly why I wanted SIL far from my infant. SIL suffered a miscarriage with her then boyfriend Jamie 2 years ago and it totally shattered her. For everyone, that was indeed a depressing period. Given our already childbearing status, Harry and I felt bad for her. We chose to be somewhat more lenient following her miscarriage. She could connect with our kid Nate, so we would welcome her to our house. Despite her behavior with me, she has been rather lovely to our son, really shocking. She looked to have changed at first, but with time she returned to her former self. She constantly talks about how difficult her life is, how things never seem to go for her, and blames ex-friends or managers for upsetting her life. I have found over time that she is never wrong in her thinking. She is always attempting to get people on her side by playing the victim card and hardly acknowledges any flaws in confrontations. She chose to get married this year and invited everyone to save us. Given our relationship seemed to have improved, Harry was surprised to learn we were not invited. She began to explain how she won't let me come since I would cause disturbance to her wedding when we questioned her about it. Having never done anything to her, I phoned and asked her why she would think something like that. Kayla began to tell how she had deliberately dressed in all black for our wedding, so now she was worried that I might do the same and this was why she wanted me off-site. I informed my spouse straightforwardly about how manipulative she was, outraged about it. After discussing with his parents, Harry decided to let SIL know they would neither be attending the wedding nor would they pay for it. This turned SIL to tears, and she began to blame me for starting this disaster. Her husband told her she had no right to be pointing fingers at me as she had freely admitted her own error. Kayla, however, explained her behavior by stating that I should just get over it since our wedding was long ago. Later, she contacted me to apologize and ask for forgiveness as FIL and MIL were still not paying for her wedding. Though I hate to say it, Kayla can be quite charming and convincing when she wants something. I wanted to just go forward from the past and forgave her. Her wedding to Jamie went perfectly. We all showed up and had fun. Not even 6 months later, Kayla appeared at our door grumbling about her marriage failing. For a few days, Harry and I let her stay with us where she would spend endless hours venting about her husband. They appeared to be struggling to conceive, and Kayla was obviously blaming Jamie for everything. When I went to speak to Kayla, she insisted it was entirely her husband's responsibility. She would be hyper-focused on our lives and try to create things that didn't exist when she was not grumbling about her husband. For instance, usually every morning before heading to work I visit the gym. When I'm running late, I occasionally grab my work clothes so I may finish my workout, have a bath, and change into my business wear. SIL observed this for some time and would have many questions about it, including why I was bathing or why I even needed to visit the gym. I didn't give it much thought and would tell her how I liked keeping my weight and how I disliked visiting the office all sweaty. She would nod and lick her lips. Mill was telling us about a friend of hers who was divorcing right at lunch. She left her friend's spouse and grabbed half of his assets after learning about his adultery with her. SIL stopped her abruptly to ask my husband whether he and I had signed a prenup before we were married. We paused to stare at her. We stopped eating. She glanced at my husband expectantly as if I hadn't even arrived. My husband told her straightforwardly that he is not someone who minces his words as he and I both made rather good money and we felt no need for a prenup. SIL snorted and began to say that he could be blindsided any day and that cheats abound today. Her statements offended me, therefore I asked her to clarify exactly what she meant. SIL then began to remark how I was obviously meeting someone as I was usually carrying change of clothing everywhere and that, as Harry's sister, it was her obligation to warn her brother. These were shocking remarks for me. Phil and MIL arrived right away to save her from continuing to fabricate such things and advised she shouldn't interfere with others' affairs. Without missing a beat, SIL continued to emphasize how she was only trying to be there for her brother and began to joke if our son Nate was indeed Harry's son since he didn't quite look like him. I swear I watched the redness of wrath on my husband's face. In my life, I never had seen him this enraged. Looking Kayla squarely in the eye, he informed her that she was not a mother yet as she did not deserve to be one and that her child would be better off in paradise than with someone like her. Kayla's lips hung in stunned disbelief. MIL and Phil simply watched silently as my husband left Kayla complaining about her being a shameless person trying to ruin everything since her life had nothing to offer. She was merely a loser, he informed her, doing nothing all day while her husband worked nonstop. He kept saying that since she was plainly projecting, she should focus on her own marriage instead of pointing fingers at me and asking about prenups. Reduced to tears, Kayla began to wail. Expecting comfort, she turned to Jamie, seated just next to her, but he never spoke. My husband never has this kind of mental collapse. She eventually got up from her chair and dashed into the toilet. My husband was boiling over. I stroked his hand and Mill arrived to cool him down. Understanding just how annoying she could be, I nodded as he apologized for what his sister had said about our son. Having taken enough from Kayla over the years, I was somewhat relieved that my husband stood up for me so publicly. He apologized to Jamie but totally ignored Kayla once he cooled off. That day following lunch, we returned to no interaction with Kayla. Her actions were impacting my husband in addition to me. We simply barred her from everything so she could get in touch with us. After lunch, MIL and FIL spoke with us and decided Kayla had gone too far this time. They could see how their usually quiet son had gone wild after Kayla had persisted in pushing him. We last spoke with her a year ago, and everything has been running without problems. 2 months ago I discovered what I was expecting. Given our lack of effort, this was quite unexpected. To welcome another family member makes my spouse and me blessed. We decided to let everyone know on my husband's birthday since we were waiting for the proper moment to do so. Wanting to honor Harry, MIL and Phil were throwing a great celebration in their lawn. Invited were our close friends and relatives. SIL chose to show her face after hearing about this from others. When we saw her, my husband and I staggered. Coming to hug Harry, SIL told him how much she had missed him and how sorry she was for their last talk. Taking my hand, my spouse advised his sister to be apologetic to me because she had pointed fingers at my character. SIL nodded, looked at me, then apologized. She informed me how she had been attending therapy for the previous few months and came to see how inappropriate it was for her to treat me like that. Though I disagreed with everything she said, I nodded as I wanted to be polite to her in front of everyone. Since this was a gathering for my husband, MIL and FIL checked in on us and informed us that should we feel uncomfortable, they would kick her out as they had no knowledge she would be arriving. Harry, however, insisted on not creating a scene, hence we decided to leave this go. It seemed strange as SIL was laughing and socializing with everyone during the celebration. She mentioned visiting a therapist, so I wanted to provide her the benefit of the doubt even though she appeared overly optimistic, completely not her nature. Harry spoke movingly about how he thought he was the luckiest man on earth, appreciative of yet another year spent with a lady like me, when it came time to cut the cake. His remarks made me flush with delight. As we were when we first started dating all those years ago, I couldn't help but value the fact that my husband and I were still intensely in love. Then Harry and I made the decision to let everyone know some fantastic news. Grinning, we said we were having a baby and everyone paused to consider before yelling in delight. My mother rushed up to hug me and started to cry. As Phil saluted Harry and myself, tears streamed down his face. Everyone was eager to know whether we had chosen baby names and was clearly delighted for us. SIL was the one sore thumb that caught out. She seemed stunned. Her mood changed and she simply turned away from us, appearing irritated, so I assumed maybe she was processing things slowly. Though I was a little concerned, thinking she would ruin yet another party for us, I was sidetracked with other individuals approaching to chat. I got up to assist my in-laws carry lunch, but Rick and my parents begged me to stay seated, telling me I should not even move at this point. SIL approached me beaming as I was calmly waiting for my husband to bring me a meal. Lively saying that she personally wanted to offer me dinner, since she was so excited about my pregnancy, she handed me a dish. She even said as she passed me the plate about how she wanted to make it up to me for all the times she had been nasty to me in the past. I nodded and politely approved. She then turned to go. I was ready to start digging when I fortunately found she had put shrimp on my dish. I know I am quite allergic to shrimp, hence I was surprised SIL even brought me this. Disappointed, I shook my head and got up to get my own lunch. Jamie approached me at that point to wish well on my pregnancy. After a little conversation, he asked me why I hadn't been eating. Jamie reassured me not to worry and removed the dish from my hands after I pointed out how SIL had served me shrimp, probably by error. Since he enjoyed eating shrimp, he told me he could have this dish. I could buy a fresh plate for myself. I nodded, grinned, then turned aside. Jamie began to puke and retch across this dish 5 minutes later, not even 5. Concerned, everyone stopped eating and watched him stagger to get out of his seat. Concerned Harry and Kayla hurried towards him. Jamie gestured at his plate, then at his throat. Our eyes grew wide with amazement as we realized what he had eaten definitely made something wrong with him evident. Jamie passed out, then everyone gasped in amazement and worry. Kayla hurried over to examine his dish, and her eyes grew shocked. She turned to stare at me and inquired whether I had handed her husband my plate. I nodded. Someone called for an ambulance amid the tumult, and he was hurried to the hospital. Through all of this, Kayla was sobbing nonstop and was staring angrily at me. Jamie had been poisoned, we were told later on. Knowing that the plate belonged originally to me, I nearly passed out upon hearing this. Jamie consumed may have poisoned my baby and me. Not yet known to Harry, MIL, FEL, or my parents is this. Since nobody knew what was in the food he consumed that had caused him to faint in this manner, the police were summoned to get evidence from it. Jamie is still in recovery in the hospital while I'm typing this. Kayla stayed with him overnight. Relatives calling to find out what happened to Jamie and who might have poisoned him have my husband and I fielding calls. What has transpired shakes MIL and FIL. They are sleeping over at our house since they are terrified to return back to their house. Nobody knows what happened abruptly while everything was going so nicely. Tell everyone that the plate originally belonged to me and how Kayla had come and presented it to me makes me terribly afraid. Should this evolve into an inquiry, I will have to tell the cops the truth. Though most importantly I am now rather concerned about what my SIL could do to me, I feel quite awful about what has transpired. I don't want to be around her, nor can I bring my kids anywhere close to her as she obviously has no restraints about trying to poison me. I feel bad about handing Jamie my meal and maybe contaminating my bill. Update 1. Whoa, thanks for the thousands of comments on this post in just a few hours. I never would have guessed I could have received these many answers. I typed this earlier and had shaking hands. I haven't been able to sleep. Though what everyone says, I do feel somewhat accountable for the event involving my bill. I should have simply tossed the dish away. I'm not sure why I let him grab it from me. I keep crying about his future. Knowing something is awry, my hubby has been hovering close to me. Though he doesn't know what I know about his sister, he believes I'm only worried. I agree with the remarks saying I should get down and gently chat to everyone. Although I'm not sure if everyone will believe me, MIL and FIL do have security cameras set all around the house. Given that this birthday celebration took place in their backyard, I am confident they could check and confirm via their cameras that Kayla presented me the plate. I'll speak with everyone tonight then update. Update 2. Our unborn kid. I hesitated to share this material. Being the pragmatic woman Mill is, she advised right away looking at the security camera tape. Given the gravity of the matter, FIL nodded in agreement. Though clearly offended, Harry stayed quiet to process the startling disclosure. Reviewing the security footage from their camera app, the truth was indisputable. The video shows SIL presenting to me the poisoned plate and then what happened to cause Jamie's suffering. The weight of the data made no space for uncertainty. As the knowledge sank in, emotions ran strong. Now totally aware of his sister's evil intentions, Harry battled to control his wrath. Their daughter's activities horrified Mill and Phil, who also found the extent she had gone to cause disturbance shocking. Stunned in silence, we tried to figure out why she would act in such a manner. Given this is a very serious issue, my in-laws have opted to forward this material to the police following this disclosure. Jamie is the one who has to lodge charges on SIL, hence FIL and my husband will be visiting and meeting him after he recovers. I want to cry every time I consider how I let Jamie have my poisoned dish. I have no idea how Jamie will react. I am very anxious about him, so I cannot eat anything right or sleep. I will let you know about anything noteworthy. Update 3. Alright lads, I'm back with an update at last. Although I know it has been a month since my previous update, right now I'm a pregnant woman experiencing a lot. First things first, she was detained after seeing the proof. My in-laws handed the recording to the police. Kayla admitted everything right away and did not even dispute the claims. She started crying. Jamie was as startled as any of us when my husband approached him about what had transpired. Tell him he would always be a part of our family regardless of what he decided to do. My husband advised him to press charges against his sister since this was such a wicked thing to do. Once Jamie recovered, he not only chose to prosecute charges but also sought divorce. Emotional and begging them to pardon her, Kayla called Mill and Phil. As it happens, Kayla is pregnant herself. She tried to control them by telling them they should do this for the benefit of their granddaughter, begging them to bail her out. Phil strongly advised her, nevertheless, that she should at last learn to own her acts and that they were done coddling her. Though Mill is quite depressed about what is happening to her daughter, she knows that her actions cannot be simply forgiven. The cops discovered proof she had tampered with the meal, meant to damage me, which backfired and resulted in injury to her husband. She has been charged with several offenses including risking life, causing damage, and tampering with food, thereby compromising integrity. Saying how this was all my fault anyhow, Kayla had been pleading Jamie not to charge her. Fortunately, Jamie's mind is set on punishing her. Her court hearing will begin shortly. I doubt she can flee this time. My son and I are doing okay, to everyone inquiring. In the meantime, about what his aunt has done, he is clueless. We want our son to know and avoid these circumstances, hence Harry and I have discussed and we do intend to sit down with him and tell him the truth. Having a difficult but absolutely vital conversation with a young child will be challenging but essential. As instructed by my doctor, I also get frequent ultrasounds for my pregnancy every 2 weeks. We want the kid to be a surprise, hence we do not intend to find out her gender. Knowing what has happened to Kayla, my parents have been somewhat protective of me. They are urging me to see treatment since they are concerned this could compromise my psychological well-being during the pregnancy. I agree with them as, while behaving normally, I have a deep-rooted phobia of what Kayla did to my meals and avoid eating any outside food or anything I have not made myself. Hopefully, my husband will help me to overcome this illogical phobia as he knows about it and supports me all through. Update 4. I last checked 8 months ago. Kayla is a prisoner right now. She came out guilty on the allegations. Though I never went to her court hearings, occasionally my in-laws would tell me how Kayla came clean to the court admitting years of jealousy of me. She had always dreamed of one of her best friends marrying my husband, hence when he started dating me, she would always try to harass me since she never wanted an outsider to marry her brother. She became jealous when we told my husband's birthday party we were expecting as she was also going to reveal her pregnancy. She wanted to share her wonderful news since she had miscarried once, but she felt we stole her opportunity to shine. She became so enraged then, from her pregnancy hormones, mixed a little bit of rat poison with my supper. She said she wanted me to wind up in the hospital but she never wanted to physically hurt the baby or myself. She said she deserved a reduced punishment as she never expected me to offer her husband my plate and since I essentially poisoned her spouse. Of course, the judge answered her pleadings. She was put to prison and will be far from our life for some considerable while. Jamie is also at last free since she has also effectively divorced him. We have seen him over the months and keep including him into our family events whenever we can. He informed me that it was never my fault when we spoke and I profusely apologized to him for handing my plate to him. Hearing that I had been rehearsing it over and over again in my thoughts, wishing I could have done things differently so he was never poisoned, I started to cry. That Jamie is doing well right now makes me happy. Regarding Harry and myself, our family now boasts a baby daughter. Our daughter's presence has warmed and lit our life despite the shadows of the past still there. Being a big brother makes our son Nate very happy, and he has been loving and caring toward his little sister. Seeing our kids connect makes us appreciate things. My parents and in-laws have been there for us all through, guiding us through this new phase of our life.
Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.
Brother's mysterious ICU battle. From locked-in syndrome to a miraculous recovery, our long journey of hope. A week ago my brother was in his 30s and healthy. Today he's in the ICU with locked-in syndrome. December 15, 2023. The stroke doctor is concerned it may be locked-in syndrome, anyway. The original neurologist and attending physician basically made us believe there was no hope he was in there at all anymore. Yesterday the stroke team came in and assessed him and that's where the new diagnosis, theory, came from. I don't know if I believe it or not. Is it good if he's still in there? Or is it cruel to even want that? We don't know if he'll ever get better. Very few people recover from LAS. He has an ongoing infection and inflammation in the brainstem. We don't want him to live in storage in a care home for 30 years, vented, unable to move or communicate, just existing instead of living. But how do you pull life support from someone who may be conscious, and can you even do so, legally? Or he may get a blood clot from being bedbound, or pneumonia, or the COVID the family just tested positive for. He had no health problems at all a week ago. The last few years have been the happiest of his life, it just doesn't feel real. Relevant comments. Comment 1, Hey OP. I have worked with many locked-in patients. It's a fate I would never wish on anyone. Diagnosis is hard because it's effectively a diagnosis of exclusion. If it's true, textbook locked in, the clearest supporting presentation is if the patient can constantly move their eyes up and down, not side to side, to command. The difficulty lies in that real people aren't textbooks. Plus, there are so many confounding factors that it can make it hard to say with certainty if a patient is truly locked in. All that being said, I've had multiple locked-in patients recover to near normal levels of function. I was shocked because previously locked in was a death sentence. Assuming he is young and healthy and his stroke is highly localized to the area that results in locked in, he may actually make some meaningful recovery with intensive therapy from locked-in accredited facilities. There are a few highly regarded facilities in the US. It is a long and arduous process, I'm talking a year minimum, but recovery is possible under the right circumstances. Edit. Also, ongoing infection is going to make it really difficult to determine exactly what's going on. You really need to be able to normalize everything else before you can say with certainty if someone is locked in. Comment 2. My aunt got pneumonia like 10 years ago and ended up in a coma. It was so severe. My mom went to the hospital and would just sit and talk to her, read her favorite books, put on her favorite shows, etc. Even though the doctors said she wouldn't be able to recognize anything. She later woke up and told my mom that she heard everything my mom did and what my mom did gave her hope to keep going. So have hope, OP. There's always hope. OP, thank you. I asked his friends if he'd been intending to read any books and ran out to pick one up yesterday so I could read it out loud to him. Unfortunately, it's the Andromeda Strain and I didn't realize the subject matter until buying it. Comment 3. You should read it and once it gets to the climax just stop. Then be like, hey motherfucker, you can finish this once you're out of the coma, I'm leaving it right here for you. And put it by his bed. But I also have a sick sense of humor sometimes, lol. But seriously, don't give up hope in him. Hope can do crazy things and people have gone through crazy ordeals only relying on hope. Be his hope if he needs it. What should I get for my brother's ICU nurses who are working over Christmas? December 24, 2023 title. My brother has been in the ICU for a few weeks. I appreciate all of the nurses so much, but wanted to get at least a little something for the nurses who are missing out on time with their families to care for mine. Me and the immediate family have COVID and aren't even able to go in person. Food delivery, sweets, chocolates, gift cards, Amazon, Starbucks? I want it to be something actually desirable, useful. Thank you. Relevant comments. Comment 1. My favorite gift as a nurse that a family brought in was a ton of practical stuff from Costco, with enough to go around. Think, lip balm, gum packs, protein bars, Fairlife protein drinks, then maybe a few goodies like chocolate or candy. I'm sorry your brother is in ICU, hope he makes a good recovery. Glad it's been a good experience with the staff. Comment 2. Just speaking from a personal perspective, but a sincere thank you card is awesome. We post ones we get in our break room, and so when we go to eat a quick snack it's like a nice little words of affirmation boost reading them. Comment 3. If food, be sure to schedule 2 separate deliveries, one for day shift, typically 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and one for night shift, typically 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. If you just deliver it once during the day, it will be gone or cold for the night shift. Update. A week ago my brother was in his 30s and healthy. Today he's in the ICU with locked-in syndrome. January 4, 2024. Thank you everyone for your kind words on my last post. This has been harder than there is language to explain, so I won't try. We have a tentative diagnosis for the cause of the encephalitis now, after getting a test back from Mayo Clinic. Disseminated histoplasmosis with CNS involvement, a brain fungal infection, basically. Extremely rare for someone immunocompetent, very difficult to diagnose, and often misdiagnosed or underdiagnosed. Viral meningitis is the usual misdiagnosis, which is exactly what they'd been assuming. His presentation matches it perfectly, including the upper respiratory thing he was dealing with for weeks prior. He was started on IV antifungals the very day they got the test back. In the past few weeks we've lost the suspicion that he was locked in. He was in a full coma until 2 days ago, when he spontaneously opened his eyes. One neurologist, stroke specialist, said this was an encouraging sign. The general neurologist said it was nothing. So as usual we have no idea what's going on, what to expect, or what to hope for. Perhaps being foolishly hopeful, it does seem meaningful that there was never any improvement until a few days into the antifungal course. He's been treated for everything, and I mean everything else. I didn't know so many antibiotics even existed. He's going to be transferred to a major research hospital in Manhattan as soon as an ICU bed becomes available. We're just waiting for the call, and when it comes they'll stuff him in the helicopter, day or night. Because he's had strokes it's possible that nothing can ever be done and there will be no improvement from here, but I'll wait for the big brains in NYC to tell us that. Also, he was Joel from The Last of Us for Halloween. Method acting asshole. I have the watch he made for it, and if he ever recovers enough for me to do so, I'm gonna throw it at his head. Relevant comments. Comment 1. I had disseminated histoplasmosis, which took 5 months and multiple hospitalizations until my organ began failing. I transferred to another hospital's ICU, and was intubated for 10 days till they found what seemed to be yeast in my system, which indicated something fungal related. They hit me with anamorphic B and my fever came down, and ultimately they pulled me out of the ventilator. I don't know if there's much I can say to comfort you, but I know there's zero community here of those who have faced disseminated histoplasmosis. So if you have any questions, thoughts, etc., DM me, I am here for you. Comment 2. As a sibling who watched my sister battle an ultra-rare. No chance this could be it, blood disease from an ICU bed, I'm holding y'all in my heart. Thank you for taking the time to update a bunch of strangers on the internet. Question from a family member: what can we do to make your lives easier, and what do you wish families wouldn't do? February 8, 2024. I saw a discussion here recently about how going to the nurse's station is frustrating and needy. I had no idea this was the case and had considered it less obnoxious than hitting the call button. Using a button or bell to summon someone always gives me the ick and felt inappropriate for non-emergencies. So in a vein similar to that, what should we the family do to make your life easier? What do you wish more families would do? And similar to the above, what do you wish families would stop doing? Relevant comments. Comment 1. Don't ask for stuff for yourselves. I'm here to help your family member, not get you a blanket, coffee, water, a new pillow, a different chair etc. Also feel free to help your family member adjust their blanket, change the channel, adjust the heat AC, charge their phone etc. You don't have to call me for that. Comment 2. Clustering care is super helpful. Hitting the call light is great, and when you do it's nice to think of other things you might need. For example, hey, I think my dad needs help to use the bathroom. Also, since it's 11 could we order lunch and change his sheets while he's up? And while you're in here, could you tell us when his next pain meds are due? It's not always going to be possible. Humans are not robots. People can be frequently incontinent, need pain meds, etc. But it's so nice to be able to knock out several tasks at once instead of coming in and out multiple times in an hour. To be clear, please use your call light when you need it. Don't wait if your loved one is sitting in a mess or wailing in pain just because you don't want to inconvenience us. Comment 3. Try to appoint one person to get updates from the doctors and nurses that can update the rest of your family. When grandma has 5 daughters visiting and calling for updates, it can be overwhelming. Don't come up to the nurse's station instead of using the call light, then stand there and wait. Don't order DoorDash and expect staff to run around looking for it or bring it to the room right when it arrives. Update. I wanted to give an update to my 2 posts from earlier this year. I know a few folks reached out to me. I'm sorry for not responding, as I wasn't in a place at that time to really do so. But your kindness, and the fact that total strangers on the internet genuinely cared, was a balm for me when I really needed it. The final diagnosis is an extremely rare autoimmune disorder called acute disseminated encephalomyelitis. The trigger isn't clear, but it can really be caused by almost anything. He had an upper respiratory infection prior to all this, which is a common trigger. He slowly emerged from his coma over the course of a month or 2, passing through different levels of consciousness and awareness, slowly, and was in fact locked in the early stages. He could only move his eyes to communicate. He received plasmapheresis treatments and started regaining mobility after that. It started with slightly moving his head side to side, slightly moving his lips, slightly twitching his fingers. Soon he was mouthing words and curling his toes. Adam apparently has a good prognosis for recovery, and the larger hospital we transferred to told us that there are no strokes in the brain, despite the initial hospital's assessment. The larger hospital has significantly more advanced MRI machines, which meant they could capture pictures the small regional hospital could not. This is something I wanted to bring up because I want to emphasize the importance of seeking that second opinion. Had we not transferred to the larger hospital, got the plasma treatment, got the new MRIs, we may very well have made different decisions regarding life support. I have no doubt other families in our position through the years have been forced to do just that. Do not give up until you have a diagnosis. As for how things are going now, he's been slowly regaining his mobility, and the neurologist told us we have no reason to believe he won't walk again. Cognitively he is 100%. He doesn't remember the first 6 weeks or so after waking up from the coma, but does remember everything before getting sick perfectly. He weaned off the ventilator in March. He transferred to an inpatient rehab facility and was there for several more months. He's now home and doing outpatient rehabilitation. He can move every body part, though he has muscle wasting and will need to continue intense physical therapy to get out of the wheelchair. Being in hospitals for nearly a year is not without its own complications: sepsis at least once, pneumonia multiple times, so much MRSA and IV antibiotics, and a stage IV bedsore. But, considering where this started, it still feels like a miracle. 5 hospitals, 8 months. Please hold your family members close, and don't take for granted the amazing things your body does every day. It can all go haywire overnight. And to anyone who read these posts and cared for some strangers on the internet, thank you. Now to the next story, story 2. My brother asked for help after being cheated on again, but I refused because he abandoned me before. About 9 years ago, my brother's wife left him for another man. She was cheating on him all that time. My brother was devastated. They had married very young. I was always against it. I had my brother in my apartment for months. He had fallen into a severe depression and I was the one who paid for his psychologist since he didn't have money and even lost his job because he didn't even want to move from the couch or bath. I even gave him a bath. I wasn't bothered by that. I did everything for my brother. She just left and blocked him from everywhere. She simply confessed to him that she'd been cheating on him for a year and that she was in love with that man. 4 years after that, when my brother was finally starting to feel better, she reappeared in everyone's life. The typical thing happened. She and her lover were no longer together, she had begun to receive psychological help and changed completely. She felt regretful, she was really sorry, etc. I told my brother all the time to cut off contact with her for the sake of his mental health. He didn't. I always had a bad feeling and I could smell the shit from afar. He started to justify her past actions all the time by saying that she changed. They were too young, she was having problems, etc. And he got angry when I told him that she is still a bitch. Shortly after that, they got back together and my brother cut off all contact with me because I didn't accept their relationship and he didn't want anyone to come between them. I told him to fuck off and we didn't talk anymore. Now my brother has reappeared at my house, after years without him wanting to talk to me, only to tell me that his wife cheated on him again, but this time they have children. In the past I would have let him in, hugged him and everything, but he has gone years without even inviting me to meet his children. He has not even spoken to me to congratulate me on my marriage or on my pregnancy. I even invited him to my wedding and he didn't come. I told him that at this moment I can't let him be in my house, which is actually true because I can't have that kind of stress. He told me that we are siblings and he needs me, but I told him that I needed him too, but he was never there and he cut me off for that woman. We had an argument and my husband ended up kicking him out because I was already crying. He's staying with our parents now and my mother just tells me it's not the time to hold a grudge against him and he needs me, but I can't forget how he didn't think twice before cutting off all contact with me for her. Relevant comments. Not understanding why people go back to cheaters like that. OOP, I don't understand it either. But the truth is that he had never gotten over that relationship. My brother went back to her because she basically sweetened his ear with things like that she was getting psychological help, that she was sorry for everything. She even came to tell me that she was really sorry for everything. Commenter, downvoted. You were way too involved in your brother's life. You bathed him because he was depressed. OOP, way too involved. No, I was giving him the support he needed. Some people are so depressed that they even need help bathing. I'm a nurse. I've taken care of people in the same state or even people who needed help eating or brushing their teeth. There is no consensus bot on AITA, but most comments were NTA update post, August 24, 2024, 1 week later. I have spoken to my mother because she kept trying to persuade me to talk to my brother. She came to see me since I cannot move too much. She basically told me that my brother is very sorry and I told her that then he should tell me that and not her. But my mother replied that my brother is too embarrassed about his actions. But I told her that I'm not going to let her be any kind of mediator and my brother is old enough to speak for himself. I know he was sending her to insist that I talk back to him. My brother is an adult and can speak for himself. That said, 2 days ago my brother came to my house to talk about everything. He told me something that I always knew, which is that he never got over his ex-wife and he was always totally blind for her. He believed that all of us who were against him coming back to her were toxic and he should cut us out of his life because we were an obstacle that didn't believe people can change. So that's what he did with me. Block me from his life. He said that he feels ashamed of himself for having been so blind since she cheated on him again. I never told him I told you so, nor am I going to, 'cause he already knows that. There were many people worried about whether their children were his, but I can assure everyone that they are. They look identical to him and luckily she was maybe faithful at the time. Anyway, after talking he apologized to me and told me that he needs me, but I told him the same thing as that day. I needed him too and he was never there. I forgive him for everything, but that doesn't mean that I want to go back to everything being like before, because I don't want to put myself in that situation again. He didn't even tell me what he's going to do with his wife and I don't want the situation to repeat. I never did anything expecting something in return, but it did hurt me a lot that he turned his back on me without thinking twice and only came back when things got bad for him. I had invited him to my wedding. Maybe foolishly believing that he would come, but he didn't even do that. I even kept a seat for him thinking he was maybe coming late. And I feel really dumb for doing that. I told him I'm sorry, but I want things to continue as before since I got used to not having him in my life and I don't trust that he won't use me as a nurse and therapist anymore. At first he didn't understand it and said that we are siblings and we should be united, but when I told him that he forgot that for years, he shut up. So that's it. I simply told him that I prefer to continue without contact with him as before and I have made it clear to my mother that I want to spend these months peacefully. Maybe some will call me cruel and say I should think about my family, but I'm not going to let him treat me like she treated him. Relevant comment. To a heavily downvoted commenter in a back and forth exchange with a lot of assumptions on the commenter's part, only included because I liked OOP's response. OOP, I'm going to tell you just one thing because I'm not interested in reading your comment. Adult people talk about things face to face and don't hide behind their mother. Now to the next story, story 3. Our strong 5-year relationship collapsed in a single night, leaving me completely heartbroken by the harsh truth. My partner, 25M, is my 26F rock and I'm his. Literally, he tells me that all the time, including yesterday. We've been together for 5 years and have a truly wonderful relationship. Always talking, laughing, comfortable with one another. Able to communicate healthily even when we disagree. After surviving abuse as a child and struggling with unhealthy romantic relationships in the past, the fact that we love each other in a respectful, secure and profoundly healthy way is truly my biggest blessing, and I wake up every day so happy and grateful for him. He is an incredible man with so much drive, intelligence, kindness and gifts to give the world. About a year and a half ago it came up for the first time that we saw ourselves getting married one day. It was such a beautiful moment and it rocked my world to have been vulnerable, said those words, and had him say them too. Since then it's been something incredibly happy that I get to hold in my heart and look forward to. The subject has come up sporadically since then, but I haven't wanted to push it too far since we are young and it is very much an eventually thing. Both of our parents are divorced and he comes from money. He got a lot of strong advice growing up not to marry young and to protect his assets, to see it from a more financial view than I ever have thought of it. Nevertheless, the thought makes me happy and we often daydream about the future we'll build together. The little house in New Hampshire we hope to buy and the dogs and chickens we'll have. These are conversations he participates in and brings up on his own all the time. I want to be able to talk casually about the marriage aspect too, go to bed with a sleepy can't wait to marry you, or love of my life, but for some reason recently whenever the subject has come up he's clammed up and made it feel really serious. This culminated maybe 2 months ago with a really weird conversation in which I sensed he might not have processed what marriage really means in the way that I had, and that he wasn't ready to be talking about this in the way that I was or as much as he had let on. I told him I don't want to put a gun to his head, this is just something that makes me happy to think about and talk about, and I tell him everything. I said I love him for him. I'd wait as long as he needs, but that I firmly didn't want to bring up the subject again until he was comfortable discussing it. I wanted to relieve the pressure on him, and I haven't mentioned it since. Well, yesterday we spent a really lovely day getting lunch and hiking with my family. They live far away so we don't see them very often. My stepsister and her fiancé were there as well, and of course there was a little bit of light conversation about their upcoming wedding. My BF was his usual friendly, easygoing self. I noticed he seemed quiet on the way home and later that evening, so I asked if he was worried about work, but he just said he was tired from a long day traveling. I made him a drink, kissed him on the forehead like I always do and promised we could do whatever he wanted to relax that night. Just did what I normally do when I can tell he's stressed, try to show empathy and take care of him. But then as I'm making dinner he comes over to me and drops this bomb. He came over to me crying and said spending time with an engaged couple and even barely talking about their wedding had sent him into a panic and he didn't know if he could ever see himself getting married. I was completely blindsided. I tried to parse what he was saying but it was like my brain was stuck. Evidently he had been locking himself in his office at work all week crying about this. I kept asking him why he would say he wanted to marry me if he didn't. He said he was lying, basically. That he wanted to give me what he knew I wanted to make me happy. I could only just stare at him open-mouthed. I kept trying to pinpoint if he was saying to me, I don't think I'll be ready to get married for a long time. Or I don't think I'll ever be ready to get married, and I really don't think he knows himself. I don't think he has put any kind of mature thought into marriage at all. It was like talking to a scared child. He kept saying stuff about not knowing where his career will lead or if he'll have money. He has a great job, an outstanding network, and is definitely not poor. Neither of us are. And I was just like, we're a partnership. You wanted to be with me yesterday. You want to be with me today. Do you want to be with me tomorrow? Yes, he said. I said, well, that's all that matters. We have a life we love and we'll take on the future together when it comes. I'm devastated. He left for his mother's house and I don't know when he'll be home. I cannot take another sleeping pill or my heart will stop, but I can't sleep a wink. I literally spiked a 100-degree fever and spent all night sweating and freezing. I had no idea it was possible to be in so much pain it makes you physically sick. This person is the bedrock of my life. We have always had rock-solid confidence that we can trust each other, be vulnerable around each other and be our full authentic selves without inhibition or fear of judgment. We share everything together and we are best friends. He even said that over and over as he sobbed and told me he loved me and that he didn't want to get married. Hours ago I had the most beautiful and solid relationship in the world. Now I don't know if we're going to break up. I'm reeling. I feel like I've been stabbed in the back by my safe space. The earth fell out from under me and I don't even know what to think anymore. TLDR, my boyfriend of 5 years held in all his fears about marriage and commitment and they all exploded out at once, and now our amazing and healthy relationship could completely sink out of nowhere. Update. I just want to say thank you to every person who commented. I was in an absolute state while writing my original post, and truly thought 8 people would see it. I read every comment. The kind and empathetic advice I received gave me a little bit of hope and peace as I waited, and that was basically the only reason I was able to eat lunch those first 2 days. I want to thank all of you for that. The long and short of it is, he left me. I called him the next day asking when he would come home. He'd told me he needed a day to think, but he was talking like we were broken up. I asked him to at least tell me we're still together. He wouldn't, so yeah. He just torched it in pretty much an instant. I had been leaning a lot on the kind words I received from folks who reassured me that one fight does not need to derail everything we've built over the last 5 years. I took the perspective that the question of marriage was something that we'd need to discuss seriously and hopefully through therapy to arrive at what both of us want. I had no idea he would just upend the table with no warning, without ever expressing his feelings or giving us the chance to address it with even a single conversation. So many of the comments I received revolved around the question, is not marrying him a deal breaker for you? Would you be okay with simply a long-term relationship? I don't know. I would have to search my soul for that answer. But I didn't even get the chance. He made that choice for me. 5 beautiful years and he just fucking left. Needless to say, there were a million better ways to do this while honoring his fears and feelings while still showing me an ounce of respect as his partner and someone who loves him. This owed a conversation. And even if we still reached the same conclusion, I would understand. But this, it's not what I deserve. I did see him one night and we have been texting. He said all of this awful stuff about how he was just trying to tell me everything I wanted to hear and how I wouldn't like the person he really is underneath all of his people pleasing. He's got a lot of this don't talk about it, just run in his family. Including in his parents' relationships. My partner has always said he doesn't respect this kind of behavior and talked vehemently about how his values are different. Then he just did the same thing. Although when I wrote my original post I wanted nothing more than to continue living our happy day-to-day together, given this entire nightmare, space is the only thing that can do anything for either of us at this point. He has no idea what he's feeling or how to talk about it in a healthy way. My dad had the simplest take and yet said it best, he's immature. He needs to work on himself, and I hope he does. As for me, I'd be an idiot to still want to marry him knowing this is the kind of thing he's capable of. So we've got to break our lease. Apartment hunting while still reeling from this 180 flip of my life has been terrible. We moved to this city together, and pretty much every friend I have I met through him, so I'm really scared it will mean losing a lot of other people I love too. It's going to be expensive and miserable to live on my own, and I'm still grieving my sweet love and the life I thought we were going to have together. I gave 5 years of my life and so much of myself to being one half of that partnership. I never wanted to be on my own again and now I am. I still love him, but I can't wait around while he fixes himself, or pine foolishly hoping one day he'll wake up and be ready for me. I don't want to stand on my own 2 feet, but that's just what I have to do. My question now is, how do I move on? If when we do eventually talk, what can I even say? TLDR, he left and a lot of people were right, I didn't have the relationship I thought I had.
My 50-hour coma experience awakened me, adding faith and love to my life. Never have the same thoughts as I did. Have you ever fallen into despair? I certainly have. After a reckless decision, I found myself in a coma for 50 hours. Awakening from that deep slumber, my previous intentions had vanished, replaced by a newfound perspective on life. My hope is that sharing these insights can brighten your view of the world. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. I'm Lisa, the eldest child in a financially struggling family, where I grew up with 2 younger sisters and a brother. In our home, boys were valued over girls, which meant facing numerous challenges from a young age. I was forced to leave school prematurely to work and help my mother manage the significant debts incurred by my father. Just when life seemed to be gaining meaning with the arrival of my boyfriend, Jason, my professional life crumbled as my employer went bankrupt, and I found myself jobless. During this turbulent period, I discovered Jason was seeing someone else. Overwhelmed by despair, I overdosed, leading to a 50-hour coma. Those hours were a journey through my life's highest highs and lowest lows, ultimately teaching me the true value of existence. One poignant memory from when I was 15 was my intense desire for a digital watch, just like the ones my friends wore. To afford it, I skipped meals and took on extra chores, saving every penny. When I finally bought the watch, it brought me immense joy. I cherished it, constantly admiring it on my wrist. However, one day after showering, I returned to find the watch missing from the drawer where I'd left it. Panic set in, and a troubling thought led me outside, where I found my younger brother Lion holding it. "Give the watch back to me," I demanded. "No, it's mine," he retorted. "You took it from my drawer, didn't you? Give it back." "No, don't pull it like that," he protested as I reached for it. "Give it to me," I insisted, snatching the watch back. Lion fell unexpectedly. "What's happening here?" my father interjected as Lion cried. "Lisa took the watch, and she won't let me play with it," Lion complained. "But this watch is mine. I bought it with my savings," I explained. "How could you afford it? Give it to him now." "Don't make me repeat myself," my father commanded. "No." I stood my ground. "You dare to defy me?" he shouted. My father struck me repeatedly, deaf to my pleas. Ultimately, I had to relinquish the watch to Lion, who smugly trotted off, mocking me with a stick-out tongue. All I could do was weep in silence, nursing a deep-seated resentment. I remember myself at 18, longing to attend university, but all my hopes were dashed. "Our family is burdened with a huge debt. If you go to university, I won't be able to support everything for you," my mother said, her voice filled with sorrow and regret. "I'll do any job to earn money and take care of myself. You don't need to worry about me, just let me continue my studies," I pleaded, desperation evident in my tone. Then my father angrily said, "A girl doesn't need to study so much. You should quit school, work, and help your mother support the family." "But I stammered, my heart sinking. "No more buts. Do you dare argue with me?" My dad's voice boomed, silencing any further protest. I knelt and begged. "Father, please let me continue my studies. I will take care of everything myself, without troubling you and mother. Please, Father." "No means no." My father coldly brushed me off and left. I looked at my mother and could only cry. She helplessly hugged me and cried with me. A few days later, I was hired as a worker at a factory sorting and packing agricultural products. My job started at 7 a.m. with overtime until late at night. The money I earned was used to pay off the large debt my father had incurred. Those days were truly exhausting for me, with the pressure from family and work making me feel like I was about to explode. About a year later, to have more personal space, I decided to live alone. Besides working at the company, I kept to myself in my rented room. I didn't dare spend money on food or luxuries to save money for my family's debt. There were times when my pockets were completely empty. "How about it, girl? Got any money today? We've been waiting a long time. Should we just throw your father in jail?" The debt collector my father owed money to threatened, his tone menacing. "I just gave you money last week, didn't I?" I replied, my voice shaking. "That little amount? Do you know how much your father owes? Do you want to die?" he snarled. "But now, I really have no money. Please give me a few more days." "A few more days, huh? Let me warn you, in a week, if there's no money, I'll kill your whole family. Better find a way to get the money soon." The debt collector threatened harshly. He and my father often came to my rented room to demand money. When I said I didn't have any, they trashed my belongings and threatened me in various ways. I lived in constant fear and anxiety, causing my friends to gradually distance themselves from me. I didn't dare get close to anyone, isolating myself and living in loneliness. It was a very difficult time. Even now, thinking back, I still feel a chill. Every day was a struggle, not just financially but emotionally as well. I often found myself overwhelmed by the sheer weight of my responsibilities. The loneliness was suffocating, and I missed the comfort of having someone to talk to. But I knew I had to endure. I had to keep going for the sake of my family. Each night, I lay awake, thoughts racing through my mind about how to find more money, how to escape the clutches of the debt collectors, and how to finally find peace. Even when I moved to my rented room, the fear followed me. The debt collector's threats echoed in my mind, and I couldn't escape the constant dread that hung over my life. I avoided making friends, afraid that any connection I formed would be tainted by the mess my life had become. My room became both a sanctuary and a prison. It was the only place where I felt even a shred of safety, yet it also isolated me from the world. One particularly terrifying evening, the debt collector came with two large men. They ransacked my room, breaking what little belongings I had, and made it clear that if I didn't come up with the money soon, they would make good on their threats. The fear and helplessness I felt in that moment were indescribable. It was as if my entire world was closing in on me, and there was no escape. Despite these horrors, I tried to find small moments of hope. I clung to memories of happier times, of dreams of a future where I could study and build a better life. These dreams kept me going, even when everything seemed hopeless. Looking back now, I realize that those dark times forged a strength in me I didn't know I had. But at the time, all I could feel was fear and despair, and a desperate need to survive one more day. After about a year of living alone and working tirelessly, I met Jason. He was a bright spot in my otherwise bleak existence. We met at a local cafe where I often went to escape my grim reality, even if just for a few minutes. Jason was kind, attentive, and seemed genuinely interested in me. For the first time in a long while, I felt seen and valued. He had a way of making everything seem brighter, and for the first time in a long while, I felt genuinely happy. We started spending more time together, and gradually, he became my anchor. His presence in my life gave me a reason to smile, a reason to hope. We would spend hours talking about our dreams, our fears, and our future. He encouraged me, and for a while, it felt like everything might just be okay. We fell in love quickly, and he made me believe that better days were possible. However, just about a year later, another crisis hit. My company went bankrupt, and I became unemployed. The news hit me like a ton of bricks. Without a steady income, the pressure from my father's debt collectors became unbearable. They continually came to demand payment, not just from me but also from my mother and sisters. The stress was overwhelming, and I felt like I was drowning. At my lowest point, I discovered Jason with another girl. I couldn't believe my eyes. I stood outside the door, covering my mouth to stifle my sobs. The sight of them together shattered my heart into a million pieces. I wandered aimlessly through the night, with a heavy rain soaking me completely, as if the heavens were mocking me. Each raindrop felt like a reminder of my misery, my loneliness, and my despair. In the days that followed, in an attempt to hold on to my relationship, I pretended nothing had happened. I was desperate to keep the one person who had brought light into my life. However, Jason grew colder and continually avoided me. His warmth and kindness were replaced by indifference and distance. "Let's break up. I don't have feelings for you anymore," Jason said one evening, his voice void of emotion. "Jason, why are you saying that? I love you. I can't live without you. Please don't break up with me, I'll die." My voice cracked as I begged, tears streaming down my face. Despite my constant begging, Jason resolutely turned his back and left. I was devastated. The man who had once been my source of strength had abandoned me when I needed him the most. I locked myself in my room, feeling despair take over my body and mind. My thoughts spiraled into a dark abyss, and I felt completely and utterly alone. I fell into a deep depression, seeking an escape from my suffering. I stopped eating, stopped talking to anyone, and spent most of my days in bed. The world outside seemed distant and uninviting. Sleep became my only refuge. Devastated, I locked myself in my room, consumed by hopelessness. I fell into a deep depression, wanting to escape the pain. I took a lot of pills, hoping for release, but instead, I fell into a 50-hour coma. I drifted into sleep, feeling like I was flying, so light and free. In my dreams, I revisited my past. All my memories, both good and bad, came flooding back. I saw myself as a child, laughing and playing without a care in the world. I relived the moments of joy and the moments of pain. Then, everything lit up. During that time, I was transported back to various moments of my life, both joyous and sorrowful. I saw my younger self, full of dreams and aspirations, and I relived the heartbreak and struggles that had shaped me. "Oh, my poor daughter, does it hurt a lot? Don't cry anymore, let me apply some medicine for you," my mother said, her voice soft and soothing as she dabbed ointment on my bruises. "Mom, why does Dad always favor Lion? I didn't do anything wrong. I saved up my own money to buy that watch," I cried, the injustice of it all burning inside me. "I know, I'm sorry you had to endure so much, but I don't know how to make it up to you," she said, her eyes filled with sadness and helplessness. My mother was a very pitiable woman, bearing the burden of our family on her shoulders, working tirelessly from morning till night to take care of us. She loved me very much, but often she could only hug me and cry. Her own strength was waning, yet she always tried to be there for us, even when the weight of our family's problems seemed too much to bear. "Sister Lisa, are you hurt? Let me blow on it for you, don't cry. If Dad doesn't love us, we'll love each other," my youngest sister Lily said with a child's innocent wisdom. The three of us hugged each other tightly, and my mother stroked our heads, unable to hold back her tears. Everything before my eyes blurred, replaced by the image of Jason lovingly looking at me. Moreover, Jason and I met one fateful rainy afternoon. I was walking home when it started to pour, and I was frantically looking for shelter when Jason came up behind me and covered me with his umbrella. The moment our eyes met, my heart skipped a beat. Jason had a handsome face with beautiful brown eyes that seemed to see right through me. It turned out Jason worked at a factory next to my company, and from then on, we became close. Our relationship quickly turned from friends to lovers. Despite being busy with his own work, Jason always made time for me. He cared for me deeply, supporting me through all my difficulties. He was there during the tough times, offering a listening ear and a comforting presence. Jason shared my dreams and encouraged me to keep going, no matter how hard things got. He became my strongest emotional support, the person I could rely on when everything else seemed to be falling apart. It was a time when I truly felt happy and hopeful about the future. I saw Jason as my whole world, the one person who made all my struggles worthwhile. But in the end, he betrayed me, and my mind was shrouded in darkness, as black as ink. Discovering him with another girl was like a knife to my heart. I felt utterly lost and abandoned. The one person I thought I could count on had turned his back on me, leaving me to face my demons alone. In my moment of not finding any reason to live, my mother's image once again appeared clearly before my eyes. When I was 20, I fainted at the company and was taken to the hospital by my colleagues. My mother stayed by my side, taking care of me with a dedication that only a mother could show. "Lisa, you look so pale lately. Have some porridge to regain your strength. The doctor said you were severely malnourished. You've been sleeping for over a day and a night. My poor daughter has endured so much hardship. Recently, I took on more products to work on at home. Just rest, don't worry too much about money. I'll manage," my mother gently said, feeding me a spoonful of porridge. After a while, she helped me up and used a warm towel to wipe me down. Her hands were rough from years of hard work, but her touch was tender and full of love. "You've been sick so often, Lisa, I'm sorry." Tears rolled down her cheeks and I felt a sting in my nose, quickly wiping away the tears welling up in my eyes. I had grown up and gradually understood my mother's suffering. I loved her very much. In front of her, I always